Okay, well, Conundrum is one of those weird episodes that most people completely forgot existed because of the fact that it has nothing to do with anything else in Star Trek. Like, however, the implications of it, if you don't ignore it, are actually pretty impressive. Which I think is part of the reason why it's so ignored, is that people don't want to address the implications that it has if you do think about it. So, what is it about this episode that's so special? Well, other than having a rather gruesome scene with the alien of the week, which, okay, technically this isn't actually uh, it's not bloody. It's actually just like a weird way of having a disguise get revealed, but it um, comes out looking very, very creepy. Which, if you're in a TTRPG, that's probably something you'll just like throw in a one-liner description of. Anyways, so what happens? Well, the opening act of the episode is a quick slice of life things. Like, what does everyone do as part of their daily routine? And that is actually something that's kind of cool. I mean, you see Dr. Crusher treating a random crew person in sick bay who accidentally injured herself while she was doing a holodeck program. Now, while we do mention the whole like safety things, you can still get hurt. Which that's actually an interesting point, is that because of the fact that the whole memory erasing thing happens while she's not in her uniform, and people are trying to figure out who they are and so on and so forth. Um, she kind of gets left out of all of that. um, Also, it is a character that literally only appears in this one episode, and based on this summary here, I don't think they ever actually explain what her rank was. However, again, it's a character that's only in this episode, so presumably it would be a relatively low-ranking individual. Probably lieutenant or lower. Again, though, throwing in minor random characters that are there just for the players to interact with, great idea. Also, this episode has the Sumerian sunset, which is a rather interesting idea because it's a sci-fi cocktail that does things that real cocktails are not likely to do. And yeah, if it's prepared right, this is what it looks like. Then you tap on the glass just right, and it goes through this metamorphosis to turn into this. Don't ask me how that works, but I don't know, chemistry probably. Oh boy. Yeah. Also, apparently, it's noteworthy for being pretty to look at, and isn't necessarily something that most people would consider to be a delicious beverage. Anyways, so that gets us to the bad guys. See, this episode has the Starfleet crew being pulled into a conflict between two parties that are normally neither enemies of the Federation or close allies of the Federation, and obviously are at war with each other. Now, there's several noteworthy things about this. One, first off, this is the one and only time we actually see a Satarran, because Kyron McDuff is really a Satarran. His actual name, we don't know. Kyron McDuff is the name he used when he was impersonating a Federation officer. Oh, and apparently when they did the TNG they actually changed the spelling of his name. Interesting. And, yeah. One of the things that's interesting about this story is that we only actually see one of the aliens on either side. Just this guy. Yeah, that's probably a budget thing, honestly. Anyway, so, Satarran ships. What is that? Um, Dum dum dum. Okay, from the planet Sothis 3, and I know there's a thing in here for their ship. Where is it? Oh, it says approached by a small vessel of unknown configuration, and this doesn't have a really. Ah, here it is, the link. Okay. Yeah, here we have the actual props without the glowing visual effects overlaid on them, because they didn't actually make a full makeup for this, just a mask and torso piece. So, kind of like an H.R. Geiger nightmare alien sort of race, but vaguely humanoid. Sothis 3, talked about, and that's it. The only noteworthy technology they have is the whole like memory manipulation trick. All of their other technologies were either inferior to Federation technology or approximately equal. Now, allegedly they hate mysteries. While that's mentioned, we have no idea what that actually means at all. It's just thrown in there and not explained. Now, here's the Satarran starship, which, if you look closely, is one of the studio models that got reused a lot. Which, this one has interesting glowing effects on it, though, which is a part of the whole, like, energy matrix thing that it uses. And the memory alteration thingy actually does go through standard shielding. However, if you think of it as psionic technology, that kind of makes sense since telepathic energy goes through shields too. And again, this one, when they scanned it, they say it's like, oh, this apparently doesn't have any weapons. Yeah, because of the fact that all of the space on board the ship that would be usable for weaponry has the memory erasure beam instead. And one of the Satarrans beams on board. Now this says crew complement 1, but I genuinely don't know that that's actually true. If you're using this in a TTRPG, It's a small starship. It's not a shuttlecraft. So, you could have it just beam over one person and then go home because that's very much what happened. The Satarran starship goes home. They don't blow it up. They don't stare at it. It's just after it does its thing, it leaves. So we don't know exactly all of that stuff. We do know enough, however, that this is a very dangerous technology. If they could figure out how to do that effect during a fight to end the fight, that would be nasty. And of course, if they had the ability to do that while otherwise approximately equal, yeah, that'll cause problems. Also, other thing about this is that they apparently had the ability to screw with the ship's computer systems in ways that indicate some kind of advanced hacking. Although, one thing that's highly noteworthy about this is that the memory erasure beam caused everyone to fall asleep when it happened. Everyone just blacks out. It's not like they just like blink and suddenly can't remember things. No, they all went unconscious and then later on woke up. We don't know exactly how long Kyron McDuff and the other Satarran agents were messing with the Enterprise computers. And that's an interesting point about this. Why exactly did Kyron McDuff and the Satarrans need to have the crew of the Enterprise fly the thing? Why couldn't they just, do their mind control whammy and then steal the ship? Why not, steal the computer database? And, all those sweet, sweet Federation technological secrets that they could use to build Satarran starships that are actually able to be the equal of Federation starships in combat. Yeah, yeah. If you were to use Satarrans in a TTRPG, have fun with that. I personally think that would be a great idea for using them in a game. They're not a race that are one of the scariest races out there. However, they're a race that have goals that give them reasons to steal Federation stuff. In this particular incident, they were really just trying to blow up the Lysian command center to end the war and have the Satarrans win the war and presumably conquer the Lysians. And I suppose now is a good time to talk about the Lysians and how little we actually know about them. Oh, Epsilon Sylar. This is uninhabited neutral space. Um, the Satarrans lured the Enterprise there with subspace signals that were seemingly meant solely to get the Federation to investigate to figure out who was there. And then they get ambushed by the Satarrans to do the memory erasure thing and blah, blah, blah. Now, one thing that's noteworthy about the Lysians is that they're referred to as the Lysian Alliance. What exactly who are the allies in this alliance is an interesting question. It could be a collection of several minor races in a structure similar to the Federation. We don't know. And of course, there's the fact that they're actually genuinely very weak in technology compared to the Federation. This does not mean that they are generally lacking in technological capability, but that their weapons and defenses are highly inferior. And Picard notes that they could blow up their command thing with a single photon torpedo. Which, yeah. That's not exactly an even contest, if you know what I mean, huh? So let's look at the individual things. Sentry pods. Now, one thing that's noteworthy about the sentry pods is that when I first watched the episode, I'm like, that's plot convenient that they have unmanned drones. Then it occurred to me that the memory erasure beam would probably be less effective on unmanned drones, and that it's entirely possible that the Lysians were using unmanned sentry pods as a countermeasure to the Satarran memory erasure beam. Now, how they avoided having the Satarrans hack into computers, well, we don't know how they hacked into the Federation computers on the Enterprise D. So, it's possible that the Satarrans can't do that either. And that is something I find to be an interesting quirk. And also, it's like these are actually larger than shuttlecraft, 29 meters long. That's very small compared to the Enterprise D, but actually considerably larger than the shuttlecraft that the Enterprise D has. And yeah, it says like fusion generated pulse lasers, and yeah, that's not much. The basic concept, though, is interesting. I say so. Here we have like the command center is in the Lysian system and orbit of the planet Lysia. As I think that they don't actually have a picture of it here, huh? The Lysians are a warp capable species, and so on and so forth. And that's really all we know because of the fact that the Lysians are the victims in the scenario, and we barely see them. Oh, and let's see here. We looked at this already. Sothis is only mentioned in dialogue. And here we are. Snow Command Center. It's actually a very large structure. That's another interesting thing about this is that as this is a massive space station compared to the Enterprise D. It is huge and has extremely weak defenses. Now, again, the Lysians we know so little about that actually using them in a story would be somewhat challenging. You could, however, have them as a friendly alien of the week, though. That would certainly be an option. Especially if it's an alien of the week who has recently had a change of alliance. Like, maybe the Lysians finally decided to join the Federation. We don't know enough about them to understand why they didn't join the Federation in the first place. Presumably, they're able to apply for membership. We don't know of any reason why they can't. And yeah, lots of speculation, no answers. Alrighty then. And with that, I'm going to call it here because it's an episode that has a lot of interesting things to ponder in it. Like, those Satarran memory erasing things are something that would be very, very dangerous on a ship that had better shielding and weapons. And understanding how that works, well, yeah, that's something you could have a lot of fun with. The Lysians, on the other hand, they're just the sheer size of the command center they have is the most interesting thing, because I think the implied scale here is actually larger than when this model was used for the Edo God, which is strange, but yeah. Like, the sheer number of personnel that they could possibly have inside that thing is, well, they don't say. But, if it had been destroyed, then that would have been a disaster for the Lysians. But it wasn't. All that got destroyed was one Lysian destroyer, which, yeah, that's yet another one of the models that they reused repeatedly. They don't. Oh, they did say that the crew is 53 on board this thing, and it's a rather small ship. Oh, it says it's 100 years behind, so this hints that the Lycian destroyer would have been um, more of a match for the Enterprise in the original series than the Enterprise in the Next Generation. Hmm. Oh, wait, the standard crew complement is 53, but it's not necessarily what this one actually had on it. Okay, well, anyways. And I think that's about enough of this. This is one of those episodes that has a lot of fodder for ideas, but it's fodder that's not touched on anywhere else. So it's kind of like uh, isolated from everything else in Star Trek, and that isolated nature means that you could go places with it that you can't uh, go with just using races that are commonly seen. And with that, I will see you guys later.